Come to you with thanks, Lord. Thanks for this community, this state, this country, for those that protect us. Lord, we thank you for the many blessings that are with us every day. And we just ask you tonight, Lord, to watch over us with our thoughts, with our words and our actions, and we pray that all of those are honorable to you. We pray in your holy name. Amen.
That leaves us to public comment. Just make sure, no public comments at all. Is it a meeting if you want to? Okay, so we move on to additions, deletions, and adoption of agenda. Deb, I know you have one addition.
Yeah, I'd like to add 8A, Communications Committee update from the Chairman, Francesca.
And you said 8A?
8A,
Okay.
after Parks and Rec.
Anybody else have any additions?
Will you be giving us an update from the coffee with the mayor?
Sure. I'll do it with the Western Municipal Water thing. That was the mayor. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Could we finish like council comments up? We'll upload the little comments and then do the session.
Sure. So council comments about
With a point 12 and
Everything
shut
else
everything
down?
down.
Yeah.
I need to do, I need to add a closed session. I will add it after the other one. I need to add, so you can say 13B, a closed session for personnel issues.
Motion to approve those changes.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous? That brings us to the approval of the consent agenda.
I would like to remove item G from the consent and put it with Parks and Rec. We discussed.
So we'll do that since we already changed the agenda. So you're making a motion and then get G down.
Well,
Fine.
yes, just including Parks and Rec.
All right. So second.
Who made the motion?
Any further discussion? All in favor?
And I'm sorry, who made the second? I'm sorry. Okay, thank you.
Change, but yeah.
Sorry.
All in favor? Unanimous? All right, so now, the consent agenda with the exception of item B.
Motion to approve consent.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous? That brings us to Deputy Whitaker. Will you please come up?
I think I'm going to start at July because that's the earliest I had. So starting with July, there was a home under construction, I think in Pinnacle up here, is that Pinnacle? That was broken into. That was the spot. There was a car breaking at Hollywood Park. A couple large needs to a Target, one at the food line.
The car break in at Dogwood Park, that was before or after the camera?
That was before, that was back in July. And that was it for July. August, car break-in at the neighborhood behind the park. 3 larcenies to Target, and that's pretty much it for August. September, there were a couple larcenies that showed up that weren't even in West of Chapel. I don't know why they randomly just show up, but there was one at the Market Express, and a couple of simple assaults, and that was it for September. October, possible break-in at a house in Hampton Lincoln Meadows, another larceny at Target. And there were 10 motor vehicle crashes that month. And that was pretty much it. So that's all I got.
So, Brendan, other than the break-in in July, there's been no other reported break-ins at the park? Is that right?
I was on vacation for about a month, so I don't know if anything happened, but I don't know what. Since I've been back, I haven't heard anything. Haven't gotten any alerts from the cameras or anything.
Do you have access to the cameras?
Yes, finally got that set up.
Okay.
There seemed to be one area where the accidents are happening, you said
All over.
all over? Okay.
And I really see an uptick in them when the time changes. Because it's dark and people are going home and it. So.
There were a lot of concerns over the helicopters flying around yesterday. How much y'all have there either?
I can hear them from my house.
Brendan, how do you guys respond to calls about gunshots? There's been numerous reports on social media about guys like me hunting, and shooting. How do you guys respond? Not within the village. Let me make that clear. Not within the village. Not even within the state.
Actually, I think 3 approved gun ranges in Western Chapel that are approved by the National Rifle Association. So
So you're saying ask us how to respond outside of the village?
No, within the village.
Well, typically obviously we go to them, but we got to catch somebody.
Yeah.
Usually what I'll do is, hey, you realize there's an ordinance. A lot of people don't know there's an ordinance, so, hey, there's an ordinance. I'll show them the ordinance. Okay, I didn't know. 9 times out of 10, they'll get another problem out of it. So I like to give them at least one warning, hey, there's an ordinance, in case you didn't know. So case in point, there was a lady lives right here on Wycombe Trail that backs up to the power line right away. Her son was shooting the AR, had a nice big burn and build up. I said, hey, there's an ordinance, you can't shoot. And had a bit of problem with that. She was like, okay, didn't know. So most people are good about it.
Okay.
So.
Any further questions for Brendan?
thank you, Brandon.
Yep.
Keep your doors locked, it's Christmas time. People are just shopping around your car.
And don't leave what you get for Christmas out somebody's curb. Because they look at that too. Send it big ADS screen TV.
Break down the boxes.
Yep.
Well, thank
You
you,
need to
Judge
stay.
Baker.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That brings us to the planning board report. I can never remember. I accept the resignation of Carl, or the council does.
The council, I believe.
Council total. I mean, I guess you're making. Somebody's making a motion to accept the resignation based on your.
You appoint to committees, but
Right.
they do the board.
So I need a motion to do all of this.
Accept the resignation of the planning board member, so motion.
Do I have a second?
Yeah, second.
Any further discussion? He's moved down. He moved down West Chapel. All in favor?
We didn't kick him out.
All right, and then I need a motion to move William Rowley from alternate to regular member and to appoint Karen Izzo as an alternate member. Karen Izzo.
Planning board?
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know.
So Laura made a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Yeah.
Thank you both for being willing to serve. We appreciate it. All right. Fine.
Planning board had a very busy meeting last month. On maybe the more benign side of things, they did review a proposed text amendment to the temporary sign ordinances that would address some challenges related to the village advertising events at Dogwood Park, among other things it might want to advertise. And so that proposed amendment would be coming, or I think asking for a public hearing for that for December.
During that discussion, was any
We don't
member,
have anything.
any member of the Parks and Rec Committee in attendance?
They were not. I'd heard, I think, all the concerns.
Yeah, he had the concerns.
Yeah.
But we don't have that. Are you saying they're calling for a public hearing tonight? Because I didn't have anything for the agenda.
If you would like to call for a public hearing for that.
For next month?
In addition to that, the planning board continued their review of the zoning map and the future land use map for potential changes, and there were 6 proposed amendments that they voted on, not formally, but we had a kind of an overall theoretical list, and they decided to move forward with all of them for formal consideration. They will give formal consideration to them at their meeting later this month. You have a list of those amendments on the sheet in front of you. That was it was a good long meeting with the planning board.
I would say before we call for a public hearing on the park issue, to ask Brad Horvath, who's in session, if he has any qualms about that, or has he had a chance to review what we'll be calling a public meeting on. Does he have the information?
I don't know.
I said, we could call a public hearing, you know, between now and the review it.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to be at the planning board meeting, but he was not. But anyway, the text of the amendment, it adds an exemption for temporary signs owned and erected by the Village of Wesley Chapel from any limitations on the number of times they're displayed or for the duration of display.
I'm fine with that. I just want to make sure Brad's okay with that.
That's what he was asking for.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll make sure we get your input, Brad.
So, do I have a motion to call for a public hearing?
So motion.
Any further discussion? All in favor? All right.
Well, I get that, whatever changes, essentially, Brad, will be. Well, actually, before next Thursday's Parks and Rec meeting.
I'll send it to him now.
Do you have anything else?
I have a question.
Please.
So I noticed that Chick-fil-A is planning to address the drive-through lanes. Is that going to help with the congestion that happens there?
Are you asking, is it going to cause congestion or?
Or is it going to help the existing?
I think that they're doing it to relieve congestion. The plan is to essentially split the existing drive-through lane into 2, widening it into their property, of course, not into the road, but to allow them to process more vehicles.
Is there any more traction on the Starbucks? Or you heard about
They
it?
came and they left. They come and they leave.
How about the bank?
I haven't heard another peep since they were interested.
Me either.
And the land clearing on 84, did they ever come for anything?
I've been talking to a lot of different people recently about a lot of potential subdivisions. I believe that is one that might come along at some point.
Would it, and all these would be built on septic systems?
That's what the people that are interested in doing anything are interested in doing at the moment, yes. There's at least 2 and maybe 3 that would.
Mark, am I correct that there's not going to be a planning board meeting in December?
That's correct.
So they won't meet again until the regular meeting in January.
There will be a regular meeting in January, that's right.
Hold on, they meet in November, right?
They will meet in November, in 2 weeks.
Okay, any further questions for Vaughn? That brings us to the finance officer report.
Okay. So you have the October budget and balance sheet, and we're up to 12% of property tax collected. And the sales and use tax has started coming in. It's It's looking right about on target. As far as expenditures, I got a codification update, and in fact, if you want your books updated, bring them and leave them with me, and I'll get them updated. So we spent $36.40 there on codification update, and we bought the computer for Amy. We have spent money on event services, and we've spent some more since then. Some bills have come in. We spent $3,000 on tree services. That was one day's work to cut down some trees and branches at the park. On the ARP, you'll notice I recorded the amounts that we have already spent for ARP, which reduces our liability for ARP because that money now shows as a transfer into the general fund up on the first page, $252,000. So that's all I have.
Do you have any questions for Cheryl?
Cheryl, from my memory, we talked about having a tree service contract. What happened there?
That was what that $3,000.
Okay.
We went and did the contract, but we only have money for really 2 days worth of services.
Okay.
So we've spent half of
That's
it.
part of the contract.
Mm-hmm.
I got you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any further questions for Cheryl?
Yeah, one question is kind of a combination question for Cheryl and Vaughn. I had communication with Vaughn about the location of the mailbox in the subdivision. Do we have any bonds that we can
No.
hold?
No.
One of the conditions of approving a subdivision was the location of two gang mailboxes located in two separate locations on, what was the name of the subdivision? Bob?
Cabas.
Yeah, and they put them all in one spot. One of the conditions was that they were to move the mailbox to where it was originally designed to go. And they've been delayed. And I asked Cheryl, or asked Vaughn to check with Cheryl to see if there was any bonds or anything outstanding that we could kind of force their hand to make sure they get that done.
Don't they have a curb cut out for the second one?
Yeah, they do, but they didn't put it there
So they just got the cutout
with no mailbox.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be north.
Apparently, whoever was supposed to install them came and saw the place to put
One.
mailboxes and put them both there.
But now it's like pulling teeth to get the post office to, now that they've installed the locks, to move the mailbox. But it was a condition of approval of the subdivision.
But the developer said he doesn't, not that he doesn't care, but he's fine with moving it, but he has not been able to get the post office to respond to him inquiring about moving it.
Aren't there only 28 homes in Cavison?
This is not very large.
Yeah. So.
But
The moral of the story, never trust anybody in construction.
I'm sure they told him, go put the mailboxes in. Oh, that looks like the place for the mailboxes.
All right. Any additional questions for Cheryl? All right. That leaves us to the Parks and Rec report. Brad, if you'd like to come on up.
Yeah, I was really hoping to try to turkey brothers.
No, I was actually with Buzz Lightyear outfit, but I had a crazy afternoon. A couple of people saw it. A couple of the council members saw it. The mayor and one of the council members. And two of the council members, sorry. The first item on the agenda is to recognize Luke Hamilton. Luke is here and he can give you a brief update on his project that was completed. I spoke to a little bit last month. So come on up, Luke.
Luke, to remind council, is this your Eagle?
Yes, this is my Eagle Scout project. So for anyone who isn't familiar with what an Eagle Scout project is, to get the highest rank in scouting, which is Eagle Scout, you have to complete a service project for your community. So I chose to do one at Dogwood Park. It was a pull-up bar, and workout station along the walking trail. So we completed it recently. It is set up with mulch and a surrounding perimeter. It was a good project. There was a lot of help from John Lepke and Michelle Rometta, who helped it go smoothly, and we were able to get it done with minimal expenses because Precision Plumbing was able to donate the pull-up bar and muscle-up bar and do the welding all for free out of the kindness of their hearts. So I would ask that the council was able to recognize them in some way. Precision Plumbing and Matthews.
Has everybody had a chance to see that out in the park? Sure, out there. In fact, it's made up 20 parts of it, there's nothing for us. Right?
Yes, and no splinters.
Yeah. Awesome. I know, great myself.
Thank you.
When will you have your Eagle ceremony?
I don't know yet. It might be a while, probably in February or January.
You should invite council. We can't all attend, but most of us will.
Okay. Might see you guys then. Thank you.
Thank you for your hard work.
Excellent. And as you know, that's part of the process, is to come to the council before and after, just to report out, you can be recognized as well. So, thank you. Update on the fall bash. Despite the weather and a couple of last minute changes with our food vendors and our DJ literally was in the hospital, and the deputy situation, and again, thanks to Amanda and council for allowing us to raise the rate so we could compete for that day, because there was competition among all the different events going on in the county for deputies. So we were able to get it, get the 4 we had requested, and it went fine. It stopped raining about an hour or two before the event. The temporary speaker system, which John Lepke and Wayne were kind enough to bring their portable units down, was actually quite sufficient, and we had recorded music, and it went fine. So kudos for that. There was roughly, we spent $2,181. There's actually $135 that is also outstanding, but should be back. You probably haven't seen that yet, I would guess, Carol.
No, I haven't seen
Check
it.
from the deposit from the DJ.
Haven't gotten it.
Okay, but I did communicate with him, and he is going to be returning it. So he had just gotten out of the hospital, basically. So not that day. I mean, just last week when I contacted him. So that's happening. But anyway, the event was a good success. Again, thank you to the mayor for being one of our judges. We also had, I always forget her name, it's terrible. Kelly. Yeah, thank you. Kelly from Southbrook was a judge as well. Southbrook was wonderful. They set up a whole game area and trunk and treat area, and from what I could see, everybody had a good time that was there. We believe there were about 800 total. We did about 600 plus coming through the gate from Southbrook. And Southbrook people, when they were setting up, a whole bunch stayed behind, and they were kind of parked over in the parking area, which we didn't have any problem with the parking area or anybody complaining about no parking for handicap. There was still room, but we think there were about another 200 people that had gotten dropped off or what have you. So, Kelly seemed to be pretty excited. Wayne did a great job as the MC. Julie did a wonderful job as the MC for the pet and people costume. process, so Park and Rec stepped up and got it done. So,
Lots of hurdles that day, but we got over all of them.
that's right. That's what we do best.
A question, with the issues with the contract deputies, do you think that was a matter of supply and demand for that particular day? Yeah.
It definitely was.
Okay.
Thanks to Cheryl, I contacted their department, and they said, well, because we said, what can we do? Suddenly we don't have any. Well, you can up your per hour wage, if you will. And that did it good.
And they've already signed up for December, so it must not be as busy as.
At the regular rate so far, and Cheryl is checking weekly to make sure that we don't run into this again, because we had several 3 or 4 way calls going on with different people, the mayor and I, and Mayor and Kelly and I, and whether or not where we're going to have it, and at one point we almost moved it across the street, so over to their field, rather than cross people with one deputy, for instance. So, but it worked. Any other questions on that? Okay, Coco and Carol's, that is going well. We are reusing the banners and just putting a date and time patch on the ones from last year, so we're saving some money there. Let's see, we are getting the train again. Again, it's only a 2-hour event this time, and it's in the morning, 10 to 12. But we are getting the event. The company asked, the only thing they asked is that if they could put the, I know we still need a W-9.
Yeah.
I called them today to remind them, because I sent them an email and now called them. But we have the certificate of insurance. Cheryl said it looks good. It's the company who bought out the guy we used last year, essentially. So it'll be the same train, decorated for Christmas. He has asked if he could drop potentially it off a day or so ahead of time. I said, as long as your trailer locks, we can find a place for it over by our trailer or something like that. So, because obviously that
Service drive.
his security.
Service drive.
Or the service drive. Yeah, I said either word actually, but whichever works best. There are 2 schools that have expressed interest, and that sort of stemmed from the rock and roll event. When they were there, they had said to us, hey, you should keep us more involved. And I said, sure, we got this event coming up and this event. And of course, some of it overlaps with the one band going over to Hawaii, but the Weddington Elementary and Cuthbertson High School bands have said they would love to come over and do, half an hour of things and stuff. I think Weddington Elementary has to go attend. That's fine. We'll have a schedule put together. We don't have that yet. We're meeting this Thursday, so 3 days from now.
The elementary class day?
Yeah. Yeah, they usually start them in like 5th grade, 6th grade, so.
Not at the zoo.
Oh, it's choirs. I said band. I
Oh, okay.
apologize. I'm getting ahead of myself. Choirs. But potentially a band from Southbrook. Southbrook had also indicated they have a band that might like to play a little bit. There is a solo performer that we'd like to have. She may be joined by her brother, but Ananda Thompson, she's who sang the national anthem and has done a couple of times for different events, including the Fall Bash. She's John's neighbor or your neighbor?
Both.
Oh. Anyway, so she's in Wesley Chapel. So, we would like to actually thank her by asking her to complete a contract, of course, like we use the music circuit, whatever that's called, the music services contract. But pay her $100 for half an hour's worth of music, and her brother might accompany her with a guitar. He's a guitar player, so he was there that day at the Fall Bash as well. but if that's okay with council. Food vendors have been lined up. We are still talking about doing s'mores as we did last year. Did you look into the cocoa, Mike? I think you were going to look into that. Is it old or is it?
Well, I'll have something for you by the next Parks and Rec meeting on Thursday.
Okay. So, marshmallows and cocoa and all that good stuff. We've talked about having a storybook area. Wayne, he said he'd dress up as the Grinch, I think, and then the Wayne or Chad? Wayne, I think. And the storybook area, Julie wants to do the reading of, I guess, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. So, a picture area with Santa. You can guess who can play Santa. So, any youngsters here? No. Okay. We've had the offer from a professional photographer at several events, and it's always sort of after we've met with you and before the event of coming down, taking pictures, making them totally available to the village to post on their website or their Facebook page, no cost. So there's, I guess at that point it'd be almost like a volunteer thing. Form we'd have to have her sign if you guys are okay with that. She came to the last Park and Rec meeting. She is just wants to be part of the event and take pictures. Yes.
Now, when she takes pictures, is she going to be taking random candid shots, or is she doing time with Santa? What is she doing?
Well, she was going to do some roaming, but she may do some of that as well. I mean, I don't think it'll be formal like that. That was not the intent. The intent was more activity. She would, again, the pictures would be available to the town, so for no cost. And
would it be on her website, or how's that work? Do you know how that's going to work?
On whose website?
The photos, how would we access them?
Oh, she would send them to us.
She would send them to the village, and then how would people within the village get access to those?
Well, we have the park. We have the official and the unofficial Facebook pages. We can put them on that. I mean, there's several ways to do that. Communications. We haven't been able to hook up with communications yet, but that would be something. And I know you put that on the agenda for later, so we'll wait and see how that goes.
Do we need to have any waiver or anything to post somebody's picture just randomly taken at an event?
Not necessarily.
You mean out in public?
Yeah.
If you go to a public event, you basically, and this was something actually, I think Pat reminded me about, that George had said a long time ago, if you go to a public event, you have nothing, you can't say complaining you're having a picture taken.
And that even applies to children?
Correct.
I think if you're talking about out at an event, right? I mean, this is not something where it's not a private function. It's not them paying to be there. It's just a public event. I think that's fine.
And she's not planning to then also try to be selling or taking photographs for profit during the event, right?
She's not, although I would imagine, this is me being very open and honest, that if somebody went up to her and said, hey, can you take some professional pictures for us and frame them or whatever, it's possible.
So would she be a volunteer or a member?
She's a volunteer.
Go ahead.
She's essentially a volunteer. Her intent is not to go there to sell.
Well, did I also get the impression at the last Parks and Rec meeting that she was considering maybe joining the Parks and Rec committee?
She was.
So,
I just think we just got to have that clear distinction on vendor versus volunteer.
Agreed. But she definitely was not going with the intent of selling.
Can I ask, when you talked about the performer, if we're going to pay her a fee, is she going to provide us a certificate of insurance because she is going to be a vendor then?
On a music thing, I think you have the language in there already that is basically
We still require a certificate of insurance.
we have it from what? Even some of the bands.
Well, now that we've talked to the insurance has said you should get one on a band or anyone that, but it's ultimately up to council. If council says, I don't think there's a problem, we're okay, you certainly can do whatever you think is the best for the town.
I mean,
But I just wanted to bring it to your attention that the insurance has said that they think that they would not cover it. So, you know.
No, they would defend the village, but they wouldn't, I read it too, you sent me the email. They would defend the village, but they wouldn't, if we got included in the lawsuit. But I also believe, in my opinion, that it has meant, many of these stage acts, of course, across the country have these huge lights and these big platforms and everything else, things that can fall, get turned over by. We have none of that. So your risk factor, going back to risk, we've talked about that a few times, is way down in my opinion. But again, council decision. I agree with Cheryl on that, for sure.
So, paint a picture for me. Worst case scenario. What could happen with this performer?
She sings badly.
What's that?
Yeah, I would say that would be it. That's fair. It's a fair assessment. I'm not, there's cables that run over for the speakers and all, and the power. It's all by the stage area only. It doesn't protrude out into the general area. I mean.
Okay, and then for a certificate of insurance, I know what a construction person would need for a certificate of insurance. What would a performer need for a certificate?
What do you mean? They would have to get the same
What process would they have?
liability, but they would only do that if they were a business. You can't go get a certificate of insurance unless you have, I believe, liability insurance to begin with.
Usually, if you're in business, you should have liability insurance. So if you're performing for a fee, you're in business. Now I'm requiring it when HOAs come rent this room, and I haven't had a problem yet. They've given me a certificate of insurance. It hasn't been a big deal, but.
I personally don't see the problem with having bands or singers need insurance. I mean, that's just my opinion.
We're adding more red tape than
Yeah, a lot
we need
more.
to.
Yeah, it's hard enough to get people to come do stuff as it is. Volunteer and give their time and energy.
Well, they're getting paid.
The performance.
We're talking about people being
One.
paid.
No, the one we were talking about, the Ananda Thompson.
Yeah. Or a band, yeah.
Or a band, but in this case it's choirs.
Yes.
But they're not being paid.
I don't care what y'all decide, but I do want to do a typical lawyer CYA so you guys don't yell at me later if there's a claim about it. If somebody gets hurt, like for example, if performers have electrical equipment, amplifiers, whatever. Somebody gets electrocuted, your insurance will not pay for that claim. Clearly will not pay for it. Somebody trips over a wire, falls down, knocks your teeth out. Will not pay for it. Period. That's all.
Is there a lesser complicated means other than getting a certificate of insurance? Can this person sign a waiver?
Doesn't cover you.
What about the event insurance that they mentioned that you can get as a rider to your current insurance? Separate.
I don't have any price on that. What they did used to offer, and it was, the acronym was, I think, TULIP, was that people can purchase that insurance, but I don't think it was for us to purchase.
No, but an email she sent about the things you were discussing, she also mentioned that towards the end that there was a potential look at an event insurance. I don't know if it's a rider or supplemental or whatever, but
I'm not aware of it. Yeah.
What do we ask the volunteers to sign?
A waiver.
I mean, what's
Hold harmless and waiver. a hold harmless and waiver that George
Unlegal.
produced, yeah.
And once you cross over to paying them now, the distinction there is that we either do everything as their vendor, whether they perform for $100 or $1,000. I just want to clarify that statement, all right?
And I repeat what I said at the last meeting, even the state site says businesses should consult their insurance agent to determine if they need liability insurance. Not even all businesses are said they need to get a license in North Carolina. There's 1,000 plus listed in their list of businesses. Now,
So the crux is we're paying her, right? If we were not to pay her, she would be a volunteer, and we would have no issues with liability, right? That's just like me walking into the park.
Well, I mean, it's up, again, it's up to y'all. If such person signs a waiver, they're releasing their claims against you, but not anybody else's caused by whatever they do. That's why you get it. That's why you get the insurance coverage from the vendors.
But again, if they're just a volunteer and there's no transaction of funds, there's no contract or anything else, what's the difference between me walking to the park and tripping over a cord and the performer tripping over a cord?
Because that's a performance that's occurring at the request of the village, and it's not covered by your insurance, whereas a trip and fall case by just a visitor to the park is.
Gotcha.
This says the solo singer may not have any coverage if this is just a hobby. If she has a homeowner's policy, it may possibly provide some liability coverage unless it was determined she was performing for economic gain.
Only if you worry about her having a homeowner's insurance policy, she said, 14.
I think she's a little older than that. I don't remember now, for sure. If that's the case, I don't know, we should have had her sing the national anthem, but then nobody can sing the national anthem. I mean, that's what you're almost saying, which I don't understand that, quite frankly.
I mean, I didn't write the insurance coverage. I'm just telling you what your insurance coverage says. So,
You might get that too.
Would it be easier if we called it a donation? Let her come as a volunteer, sing the national anthem, and then make a donation to a college fund, or?
I don't see how that changes the liability part.
Have we promised anything to the performer at this point? Then
It's a risk analysis, right? That's all it is. That's all any insurance coverage, liability waivers, all that stuff. It's a risk analysis that you all have to make.
But I'd recommend, since we're within a month, less than a month from the time of the event, that we go ahead and move forward without paying her, without entering into a contract. But at the same time, Brad, maybe ask Parks and Rec if there's something that we can do in future instances like this, to where we know what our options are. You know, if there is a day of type insurance policy or something like that, or maybe just say stick with insurance for any performers.
I hate to say it, but I will. Does that apply for the craft vendors that I thought we had resolved, even though we didn't do the event in November, we kind of resolved where that was going. Now it sounds like we backed up again. So,
Well, the craft vendors, they were going to do an application if they wanted
Correct.
to do it, and it would come to me and Cheryl, and we decided if it was low or high. And somebody, like,
well, but
I
that's what I'm
but we
getting at.
wanted to define it very clearly, and no one else wanted to define
It's
it.
a risk thing.
So-
No, it is a risk thing. I agree. I mean, it's exactly what George said. I've used that word a couple times tonight, and last time as well. But I don't understand.
I think that it becomes a slippery slope because we tend to make these ad hoc decisions on different things, and then there's no overriding policy or approach or strategy of what we're doing. We're just kind of like swimming along with it, and it sounds to me like there's a definite risk period for having the village exposed financially should someone not be covered or we not be covered in their liability policy. Now, should we investigate alternatives to help people to have some sort of insurance coverage for the event or something, find some way to help mitigate that? But I think then, unless we have something like that, it's black and white. It's either if you're getting paid for anything, you need to certificate of insurance.
If we're paying you direct, if we're paying something. Yeah.
Okay, it doesn't matter what I think.
I think we're making a mountain out of a molehill for somebody who's missing the national anthem. You know, and we've had ministers come into our meetings and give the invocation, and I know they're not paid, but I mean, chip to be fell on his way out the door. I'm not really got him suits.
That would be covered, I don't know what George is saying.
Yeah, it's covered. I mean, it ultimately, guys, it doesn't matter what any of us think. It's our insurance policy. And it's us determining that we're it. So there's, you don't get the vote, so somebody else can make a motion.
Has a performer ever been injured, fallen, electrocuted, or anything in any performances that's ever been done in the park?
At Dogwood Park, no, that's the only thing I can answer for. I can't answer for Waxhaw.
Well, we did have someone from Southbrook that broke their ankle at the park at an event.
Coffee at an event,
Yeah.
as a volunteer, and they slipped off the sidewalk, twisted their ankle.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably the worst injury we've ever had.
No, I think the trash pickup injury is.
Yeah, the trash pickup was a serious injury.
He just had surgery today.
Yeah.
Trash, what was this?
When the litter busters didn't get us, the guy broke his leg.
And it's going to be like a year before he can
Don't worry
be
about
back to.
We talked about it.
He stepped in a hole on the property 3
That
hours
was on
down.
finance.
I was in the group that was doing it.
I mean, so stuff does happen, guys.
Stuff happened.
it. Did we get sued by the litter buster guy?
Nope, he was a volunteer.
Did we
back
get
in
sued
the
by the
waiver.
lady who was pouring coffee?
Trying to waiver. There you go. That's what I'm saying.
What I understood George saying, that doesn't really matter.
No, it matters for a person that's waiving the claims, right? So if I'm
But not to protect.
if I'm waiving, I'm only waiving for me. I can't waive for somebody else.
So bands and performers cannot waive their.
They could each waive their own claims, but they can't waive if somebody else gets hurt because of their stuff.
But she could sign something waiving her.
Sure, yeah.
The standard waiver we use for volunteers, is that sufficient? Or?
Should be fine, yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll motion that we go ahead with the event and with the singer, provided she signs the standard waiver, making sure that the Village of Wesley Chapel doesn't end up in $1 million lawsuit if somebody tripped over the cable.
And are you saying that you're paying her or not paying her?
I said we go ahead and do it, and I don't have any problems paying her if, as long as she signs the waiver. That's my motion.
I second.
Any back discussion?
So you're saying that your motion is just specific to this one event and this one person doing this one thing?
Right, and then
This is
we'll,
not a precedent. This is not going to set a future precedent.
no, it does set a precedent. It just gets us through something we've already got scheduled and planned, and if we want to drag this out more complicated for future, we have more time to do that. We'll work on it.
Maybe we can look into getting like an umbrella policy for performers in the future, attach it to their insurance or something. But right now, so we're talking a couple weeks away, we don't have time to, you know.
All right, so I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
No discussion.
Oh, wait. I'm sorry. More discussion.
Does, going back to my original question, does paying this person complicate the waiver in any way? Okay.
Nope.
Okay.
Can't think of why it would.
I thought you said that she can waive her, but if somebody gets
Yeah, but that doesn't matter one way, whether she's paid or volunteering.
Okay.
You can still only waive your own claims.
All right, so all in favor? All right. Mike, David, and Deb. All right, next thing there.
Oh, I have a question about Claire before you move on. Is there going to be an opportunity for everybody to see? Doing Christmas carols, or is that just going to be performers?
You want solo?
No. No, but I mean,
Right
it's
now,
Christmas.
no, we would have just,
Around the bonfire, if you want.
yeah, we were just gonna have the performers do it.
So if
That would-
you really want to get up there and sing, I mean,
No.
we can.
Then I'd have to stand there with a volunteer form anytime anybody walked up.
No, I'm just saying,
I'm
you know,
not
hey, let's
gonna
sing
be a wild
Silent
guy.
Night, that kind of stuff.
Well, I am a little, all right.
Well, if we're all sitting around the bonfire and we start singing Silent Night, I'm not going to be the guy going, whoa, everybody sign the forms? Okay, now you can sing. No, I'm not going to do that.
It's from 10 to 12. That's what it'll be a low key about.
Yes.
So, all right, moving on.
Can we ask Cheryl to look into what was mentioned as event insurance to see what that if covers, if anything?
Council already asked, yeah. I already put it in my to-do list.
Okay.
Thank you. I just wanted to everybody on the same page.
I've asked the insurance so many times, I'm pretty sure they're not going to have a,
Well, it's just like, well, what other options, right? And what else could they do? Or,
Right.
or what might they have available for these other people to buy for,
Mhm.
like kid insurance when the kid goes to school, here's for $10 or whatever.
And that's what she mentioned at the end of her email, that there was something out there called event insurance. Well, what does it cover? If it covers nothing, then it makes no sense. I mean, I believe me, I'm not one that likes to try and figure out how to mitigate everything when there's nothing out there to mitigate.
And Brad, I would encourage you to reach out to the other Parks and Rec directors in the county that have been up against this exact same problem and have solutions for it, and see what they've come up with. They may have something that we have not thought of.
Mike, to that point, I think there's probably wants to do the same thing with Luma. I mean, we've got the municipalities with parks all around us. Let's see what they're going to do.
Absolutely. Well, that's committed with that.
I can handle that.
But thank you.
Movie night.
Movie night, scheduled for December 2nd. There was a thought from the Park and Rec Committee, not from the committee itself, but the members of the Park and Rec Committee, to switch from Bad Guys to a Christmas themed movie. The ones that are out there now are listed, Elf, The Grinch, Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas, and the Polar Express. The other two ones animated, one is more of the Jim Carrey and the Polar Express. So Park and Rec meets Thursday, and then we need to let the county know.
I don't think the council, I'm not going to speak for all the council, but I don't think the council cares one way or the other what movie gets shown. I think it's our job to approve that it gets, we do a movie night, and I'm fine with leaving it up to the committee.
Well, they're all PG, obviously. I mean,
Well, yes.
or G.
The only thing I would say is if it's the animated Seuss movie, it's like 30 minutes. So that doesn't really feel like a movie night. It's long like that.
Well, there's two Seuss ones. It's the longer animated
Jim
one.
Carrey, yeah.
Well,
Oh,
two.
and another one you're talking about.
Yeah.
But maybe when I do other
Yes.
So, did I get a statement that everybody agrees with? You don't care what movie gets played, leave it up to them? We need to know on that.
It wasn't mentioned on the,
It's darker now.
6:30, right?
I think we'll start earlier. I think we originally had said, have people come early anyway to take advantage of potential food or popcorn, or the Library Foundation originally was going to come. I don't believe they're coming this time.
And for the audience, remind them when this is, December.
And it's December 2nd, behind Town Hall here. There'll be parking both next door and over on this side. And the movie will show in Union County on on their time, should be somewhere around, because it gets dark early, but probably around 7:30 that they'll start the movie, which is good because they'll get over earlier.
The original one was 6:30. The original date was 6:30.
They start arriving, correct? I think we're going to do.
So movie night starts 6:30.
I think they start a little earlier.
Maybe 7:15.
Yes, 7:15, thank you.
Any,
Listen to me.
Any contingency for rain or extreme cold?
We have to work with the county to figure out what's available to them, because we've moved it twice since the original date because of their restrictions on their side, less than our side, so. Then I have an item for requesting for the Park and Rec chair to have a Dogwood Park storage container key. And the reason for that is the ability to be able to, if our volunteer projects need access to, some tools or what have you, I can help with that. If I want to get there early for an event and start getting out the parking signs or whatever, it's all stored in there. John is often there, but not always there. Mike is often there. They may go home in between. So I'm willing to make any type of, as I say here, the key will not be duplicated or handed out to any other Park and Rec members. In the past, the Park and Rec chairs actually have had access, but I want to formally request it rather than just assume.
I don't know, we can shoot right out a key. Sounds like a good key, Brett. I can take care of you, copy of the storage key.
Just making sure. Thank you, Mike. Thank you,
Do
Council.
we have a key?
We have an extra.
You have an extra, Mike? I didn't know that.
Even if I don't have any keys, I can get it.
Last item that's not on here is I had a resignation today from the Park and Rec Committee. Beth Leonard had started a new job, so she thought it was not going to be as involved as it has been, so she does not have the time anymore. So I appreciate it. She was a good asset. Short time, but a good asset, and it's helped out on a couple of the car events over the years. So, matter of fact, been a major player in that. So, she may be a major player again when we get into it next year, if she can. So, hopefully things calm down a little before.
So Amanda, you would.
I will formally accept the resignation.
And she was a full-time member, just so.
Did the photographer who showed up at the last Parks Rec meeting, who showed interest in the parks of the committee member, did she put on work before?
I have not seen it.
No.
Have you done any, Shop?
No.
Thank you. And I think I've tied up enough of everybody's time. Unless you all have something for you.
Yeah, I have one. So, mid-year, we created a calendar of events for the park for the next year in December. Could we get one for the entirety of 2023 for next time? That way we have all of the things out there. We can kind of see how things are spreading out, where they're at, doing more plans. And I think the document and the way we created it, I thought it was really good. And now that we're coming into the full year, I realize we won't have passed the budget for next year, but I don't think that stops us from planning.
Good, absolutely. And I did say I would get one to you, and I haven't, so I apologize. Because I appreciate the fact that you guys appreciate having it, so, and it helps us as well.
Telling you what the time was, I told you. Telling you what time to do it, I was looking at your flyer.
Yeah, it's in my other pack. Since we have a meeting coming up.
Thank you, Brad. I appreciate it.
No, thank you. Good evening.
That brings us to the plan and communications committee. We will invite our communications chair to come up.
I was about to run up and say, yeah. Hello, everyone. Okay, so communication committee was kind of quiet for several months. Just wanted to let you guys know we could not hit quorum for pretty much the summer. Every one person or another was traveling. So we're finally back, and we have readjusted the schedule to better accommodate, hopefully going forward, to not have this issue anymore. So what we would like to ask is, we've already approved the schedule, but we would like to ask for the charter to be updated for the third Monday of every month. We had agreement unanimously that that was a good day going forward. And so we have also confirmed, other than President's Day, it's not a conflict. So we'll find a new day for President's Day. So that's okay.
Third Monday, what day is council meetings? Third, second, and then planning board is fourth.
We picked that.
Yeah, no
So do we
problem.
need a motion? For
To change the charter, yeah.
A motion to change the charter to accommodate the communications committee schedule.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous?
Perfect, thank you. So now that we finally have quorum and we are going to be moving forward, there's a couple things that we wanted to bring up to date. First, we're trying to actually be more involved now. With the gap in the summer, it was a little bit difficult, and then we didn't really have volunteers beginning of the year. So we have discussed what's going on between now and the remainder of the year, including the anniversary next year, and what we can do. So for Parks and Rec, he already left, which is unfortunate. They reached out to me several months ago, and then said no thanks, and I haven't heard since. So I was going to say, hey, can you hit me up, because I haven't heard from you guys. But if they want us to be involved, that would be great to know now, because what we're going to be doing is, like the meeting with the mayor, we had someone attend, take pictures, and write a blurb. So this is kind of what we want to try and do going forward, is get someone to volunteer and kind of rotate who can attend each event coming up. So I would love to be able to get a copy of that calendar for next year so we can put it on the schedule and plan in advance. So we can try and take pictures and just say things. Or I wasn't aware of the air show, and I was one of those going, what is all the helicopter going on? So these are the kind of things we can post going forward, try and put it out there for the community in advance. Hey, there's going to be helicopters circling. I just didn't know myself, so I didn't post anything. We also discussed the 25-year anniversary, and we came up with some ideas, but we kind of have it on our list as an ongoing thing and waiting for direction from council when you're going to start planning that event. So that way we can get the timeline, so we can be involved in the timeline as to when to start pushing it's coming out, whether it's going to be 6 months. It lands on Saturday next year, so I guess I'm assuming that's the day it would be. So we can start to try and plan what we can do. For example, we had an idea of something inexpensive, so like a postcard were to go out to the whole community, because not everybody's on Facebook, not everybody's on these things. Something very inexpensive, and then on the back, maybe we can even push the fact that we have a social and see if it would help entice people to join. So, just ideas. We also are going to try and work on to update our social media policy. So right now we only have a Facebook policy, and we're going to expand that to be a general social media policy, not just specific to Facebook. That's kind of it for now. So, any questions from me?
I have one, actually two. Do you guys have access to contacts at the local schools and contacts at the HOA level for the neighborhoods?
No, we do not. It's something we can work on trying to get, but we don't have that kind of information readily available to us that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I'm not on social media myself. I would say the wrong thing probably. But I know most people get a lot of their information from their homeowners association Facebook page or their school's Facebook page, or there's a lot of great ways to communicate on the internet. I just don't think you guys need to use as many contacts as possible so you can flood the.
Wasn't Amy looking to make a list?
We've had one for a couple of years. Okay. We have an HOA list, but it's sort of like trying to stick Jell-O on the wall. It's a constantly changing thing. but we do have a rough list. And when I send things out to the Sunshine List through the website, that covers most of the social media, and it goes to a lot of times to HOA people and stuff. But
The Sunshine List, sorry.
Do you have access to the Sunshine List?
I get it as a resident. What I was just going to ask is, do you have to sign up for that? Like, if you move here, you don't just automatically. So what we were trying to target for the 25-year anniversary is the whole community, one way or another, whether they are on the Sunshine List, not on the Sunshine List, not have Facebook. Like, I think there's probably a large majority of people who do none of those things.
I think we need to budget some money specifically for the anniversary as far as communication, whether it's banners, whether that's postcards in people's mailboxes, or
just so you're aware, people in Wesley Chapel, we don't have one zip code. We don't, we have 4 towns. So it's not inexpensive. It's probably $1,200. What we do is you can get a list of all the addresses from the tax property appraiser's office and get labels printed, and you can try to cull them so you don't get duplicates and try not to send them to developers and stuff. But it's probably, postage has gone up $1,500 to send out a postcard to everybody. So
I guess I assumed that the town had a list of all the addresses. I guess it was fast.
no.
we've sent out surveys. We sent out surveys in the past, but for example, Wesley Oak subdivision behind the town hall here, about 50% of the residents are in Wesley Chapel, and 50% of the residents are not. They're unincorporated Union County. So when we sent out the survey, we only wanted to hit specifically Wesley Chapel taxpayers. But in a 25th anniversary, I'd be happy with flooding the entire subdivision by just shoving stuff in mailboxes, which we've had volunteers do in the past as well. Regarding the benefit part, we don't care if they're taxpayers in Wesley Chapel as long as they live within the confines of Wesley Chapel. So we usually find 1 or 2 volunteers per neighborhood to drive around and stick little flyers in people's mailboxes.
Park and Rec has done that many times, yeah.
Yeah, and that could be an option too. We could always try and look for volunteers, like what happened earlier with the Eagle Scout. You never know what it could be. It could be any type of volunteer that you find that's looking for hours. Sometimes college, university students are looking for hours to do something.
Well, my generation, I shove stuff in mailboxes. I think the next generation is you get on the computer and social media, and that seems to be the new and improved way.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I've mentioned it to the communication committee in the past, like looking at a calendar year or whatever, and just a list of dates that we know we want to promote, like Flag Day or Voting Day, but like a running list that, that will always be paid attention to. So there's at least like I would like a plan for how often, like what's our goal for how much we're posting? Like, are we our goal to post once a week? And if so, like have a plan for what may be going on that week that we could post. Like I think the Board of Elections, I don't know if anybody follows their Facebook page, they do an excellent job posting like current events and things that are happening.
And people who sign up to run.
Yeah, because it doesn't even necessarily have to be about Wesley Chapel to be informative for the people who live here. So maybe even just checking out the Union County Board of Elections page, just if we had a calendar where we knew and we had a plan. So our goal is once a week, once a month, once a whatever. And what are those going to be? If we know what the events are, we know that the post might be about events. But if it's a random boring week in January, that might not be anything.
Yeah, like all the helicopters are going.
Yeah.
Again, and I wasn't aware myself, so that made me think the same thing. Like, okay, I need to know when these things are happening so we can. But I don't know if there's also a list of events that are important to the council to at least kind of guide us in that, and then we come up with more, because since we hadn't met in so long, our meeting went kind of long last time and we weren't able to hit every single running detail, but we hit the overarching where we want to go, all these things that we want to do. We did spend actually quite a bit of time on the 25-year anniversary, and then also trying to get more members so we can have 5. But with the holidays, it seems more realistic to push that starting in January. I just feel like it's not worth the efforts right now to try and get volunteers until after the holidays.
I think it's like having, you have a charter that's got the broad outlines of really like what because we want to make sure that we are promoting, and then the method we want to promote to where that you can then get it to something you can operationalize with the committee to get it moving, so that you're starting to talk with them about that. But think about it, you're setting this thing up. How can you set this up for perpetuity, right? Not just a one-time thing, but how can you set it up so that, yeah, we can get into a rather than all, and some of it will evolve, right?
Yeah.
So, like, we might not have thought about warbirds and saying we want to communicate that. And then after some of the feedback, maybe we say next year we should.
Yeah. Well, and do more to, like, with the coffee with the mayor, promote it in advance a couple times, hit it a couple times, X amount of time before the event, and then the day before or the day of, and then the day after with an update to keep it kind of flowing.
Right. And I think by having that plan, it's also going to help with staff and how other things are going and what's getting posted and communicated and everything will mesh together very nicely and not be surprises in the last minute work for anybody.
And what is your budget for the communications committee?
We don't have a budget right now.
If
So,
you,
sorry.
why don't you think about something, and then when we get into the budget season later in a few months, you can give us an idea of what you'd like to see us promote.
And can
I
you
would
just
say-
say,
information was on the.
And I would say going into it, like, you're now really getting going, our budget's not until June, this current year budget runs to the end of June. So if you have budget meetings, the sooner you can get those identified and estimated at least, then we can work on, get those funded.
right now we've been trying to think of ideas that are budget free, or if, some of the things that we were talking about, if anything, would be small. But as of right now, we're focusing on non-budgeted items. Unless it would be something like the 25-year anniversary, which we would assume would be a line item in the 25-year anniversary budget for communication. And that's kind of how we were going to ask for it. Versus asking for a budget for us, it would just be, how can we assist, and then what kind of budget can we get provided for that?
I would encourage you to think bigger. Ask for this, and of course, if you do, say no.
Okay.
But going back to the 25-year anniversary, we'll need that information before we set budgets for next year.
Well, the anniversary's in July, and
Mhm.
we brought it up the last budget cycle
Yeah.
about that we would have to start the planning on before
Mm-hmm.
July.
Is there any plan right now on that? Would 6 months, 3 months, what things to be?
I know the Parks and Rec Committee has been thinking about it, and I'm not sure what exactly they have concrete as far as what they want to do. But I would say check with Brad and find out what,
So
or
they're
I would
coming-
encourage you to come to the next Parks and Rec meeting, which is next Thursday, or this Thursday, I should say. And then those are great questions to ask when you guys
So
work together.
the anniversary is not a park event, so
That's
the
all.
park and rec committee might, react a little bit and say, it has nothing to do with the park, because it is an event for the village, and perhaps council just needs to more officially ask the Parks and Rec Committee and the Communications Committee to.
Well, maybe we need to put on our December agenda that we spend a few minutes. So between now and December, think about what you think the event should look like, and then in December, we can kind of talk about it, and then that can guide the directions that the boards and committees should take.
You might want to appoint a separate committee for that.
I was just going to say the same
Yeah,
thing.
and you can go to the Park and Rec meeting, but just don't let a quorum of your committee go to the Park and Rec meeting.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if anyone's been attending, but I don't think so.
No.
Because when they emailed me and said about joining, and then when I emailed back, they said, oh, we're good right now. So I never told the committee at all about attending. They just said they're not, at a future time. So I haven't followed back up with that because they were the ones that requested at a future time. So I just kind of let it. And we weren't even meeting quorum, so
Yeah.
I kind of just didn't follow through with that.
Well, in December, we'll make it an agenda item to talk about
Mhm.
council, how council sees that event going, that should definitely help.
Yeah. I think it would be great if there was joint communication on the event, because I'm assuming it's going to be, there's going to be more than one group leading it to get the word out. And how big is it going to be, and what are we going to do, and I'm assuming it's going to be.
Maybe at the meeting communications meeting on the 21st, maybe the committee could come up with some different ideas, brainstorming some ideas of how to celebrate to present to council. So just what's the plan? What could the communications committee do? What could just some ideas? Just throw some stuff together, and and just something to give them so that they can.
Okay.
Have some ideas.
We could always check out some other local towns too and see maybe things they've done for their own events.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Put Chris on that.
Exactly.
Any further questions for Francesca? Thank you for coming.
Thanks for coming. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me last minute.
That brings us to the
Mike moved the beaver trapping down to Park and Rec, and it never got covered.
Yes, Mike, you wanted to talk about the beaver trap?
Yeah, we had, obviously we have a beaver that needs to be relocated or trapped at the park. And I heard free, $1,000, $6,000. And I just want to know what we eventually came up with as far as a plan of attack for dealing with the beaver. The county guys are telling me one thing. When we did it, when we first bought the park property, we did something else. I just want to know what the plan is.
I sent out an agenda item, and it detailed the costs. I know you had given us the idea of in Mecklenburg County, people had gotten it done inexpensively, but Union County does not participate in that USDA program. So,
in talking with Jim Chapin, the county parks director, he made it sound like, again, it was something that can be done very inexpensively and is part of the county's. The county didn't help us with the cost.
well, if you want to bring us more information, I just don't have that information.
Okay. I don't mind spending money, and $1,000 isn't a lot of money to deal with this problem. But like I said, I've heard anything from $6,000 down to free.
Well, it was detailed. It's a licensed trapper that we used for muskrats. It's his initial fee, his daily fee, and his fee per beaver.
It was $100 for setup, $75 per day, $50 per beaver taken. He estimates 3 to 5 days and maybe 6 beavers, including kits, is up there. Her probable cost is $775.
I have no problem spending that money. I just wanted to clarify because there was a lot of numbers being thrown around that, some made sense, some didn't.
What would you do once you trap them?
We're going to have stew.
Chili cook-off.
Beaver hats.
Could be Brad's next costume.
So do we need to do anything with this?
Motion to add back to the agenda or approve the $1,000 spend.
Up to $1,000?
And then maybe if do you think, Mike, by the end of the week you could follow up with the county?
Amy had already reached out. I'm not sure what, I haven't checked back with Amy since she checked with the county.
She hasn't mentioned anything to me. You had told us about the USDA, and I checked on that, and it didn't pan out.
All right. So by the end of the week, we'll try to follow up with the county, and then if not, we'll proceed forward. So go ahead and get the beavers. That's our plan. So we need a motion to to approve the beaver trapping for up to $1,000.
So motion.
Second, anyone?
Yeah.
Deb seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor? All right. Unanimous. Now we're at the comp plan implementation.
Not really a whole lot to report other than previously discussed about the planning board moving forward with those 6 potential zoning map amendments for their formal consideration at the meeting this month. And there may be more down the road, but that was the main thrust at the initial outset here. But if there are any other aspects of the plan that the council is interested in, the planning board, things within their realm, having them look at anytime soon. I know that one of the things that was discussed was the conservation subdivision regulations. There's some recommendations in the plan about looking at that and seeing how it can be improved to make it more better outcomes, make it more useful and attractive for interested parties to utilize. So we could, if that's something you're interested in, we could start looking at that maybe next. I guess also that kind of goes along with comprehensive plan implementation. I'm not sure if Amanda shared it, but the resolution for Cuthbertson Road is going to CRTPO. We're going to have a staff meeting in early December, and then that will, I guess, go on the TCC and TAC agendas in January.
So is this a drop in the ocean for DOT, or is this something that really could get traction?
The action itself is important because this is the only way to make Cuthbertson Road not a local road anymore. Make it an official, useful road and onto the state's radar for federal aid funding and things of that nature. As we communicated to some residents recently, this is a step. There are lots of steps. There is no project. There is no official project for Cuthbertson Road right now. It is on the Comprehensive Transportation Plan, which is basically your huge wish list of these are all the roads we've identified as needing improvement. Here's where we need grade separations, etc. If we want it to begin development as a project, we will need to either work on amending the Metropolitan Transportation Plan, which is a lot harder than it sounds, or wait until the next update of the MTP comes along. Most likely. There's other funding opportunities available that come around from time to time, but that is the way that it enters into the State Transportation Improvement Program process. And the MTP, the Metropolitan Transportation Plan, is important because it is a fiscally constrained plan. So they're looking at what kind of funds do we reasonably anticipate having available over the next 30 years, basically. And these are the projects we can do within that. To get it even to be considered for a prioritization for the STIP, it has to go in the MTP.
Are you getting support from the county and also from Waxhaw on this project?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. We're all on this together.
I think it's important to say that out verbally, that it's not just Wesley Chapel against the Department of Transportation.
Sure. Yeah.
That we're also working with the county, we're also working with Waxhaw. We're working both ends of the road, so to speak.
Well, Waxhaw sent an email saying, we're going to approve our resolution in November, and I said, we approved ours.
So there. I just think it's important to go on record and say it's not just us, it's everybody seems to think this is the best way to proceed.
Yeah, I think that everybody's been very cooperative and everybody wants something to happen. It's just it can take a long time for something to happen. I think we mentioned that, from a safety perspective, that intersections are more doable in the near term. They don't have to necessarily go through the TIP. And then with some of the projects that are going on out there right now, there will theoretically be some additional improvements made in the closer or shorter term. But
I don't want those improvements to be looked at and think, oh, they did improvements over there? Let's not do anything else. We want to make sure we get on that project.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
For more improvements.
Has there been any more discussion about the land over there by Newtown and that was the solar farm?
Not that piece, but I've talked to folks across the street, and I think one of the guys that was involved in discussing that previously, he emailed me about building some tennis courts on his land. I'm not sure where anything's going yet. The engineer with DPR, he had questions about it. He's kind of faded back in the woodwork again. It's a bad time of year for developers right now.
Well,
Things are
it's
slow.
right in the nail.
I was wondering if there doesn't help. Okay, all right. Any questions for Ron on the comp grant implementation? Okay. That brings us to the dates for the holiday dinner and volunteer appreciation event. So just for the volunteer appreciation event, in the past, council has done the retreat, not the retreats, the advances. But over the last over the implementation, over the planning for the comp plan, we did give residents several opportunities to be involved, from the survey to the drop-ins to the group sessions. So we talked about during the last budget meeting using the money that we budgeted for, using the money that we would spend for an advance to do a volunteer appreciation event for boards and committees. And that's what I would like to see council do. So I guess I'm asking for the okay to go ahead and start planning that. If you're watching that,
How much money? That's what I'm just looking. $2,500.
So with the council's permission, I would like to pursue, I did leave a message for the guys at Savitas to ask about, I would like it to be somewhere local, and like a drop-in dinner type thing, and if it was at Savitas, people could,
For volunteers?
we could have like a set, kind of like they did with Christmas last year. You have to choose between, you told me in advance, you have to choose between two things. And we paid for the food, and then if it was that place like Savitas or somewhere local, you could buy your own beverage if you wanted a beverage, which would bring in some extra income from that. But I was thinking maybe January.
Did you mean to have it at Savitas?
Yeah.
Okay.
They do events.
Okay.
I thought it would be nice to have it somewhere local and bring in some funds for a local business. But if they're not available, maybe Greco, I don't know, like somewhere local that could handle 30 people. I think I counted the boards and committee, it was like 30. Council, staff, boards and committee, I think it was like 30 people.
I think that January, mid to later January, is much better than trying to do something before you're in, because there's so much activity already.
Yeah.
What day of the week are you thinking?
In lieu of our annual Christmas dinner.
No, we're still about our Christmas. Yeah, that was the second thing. I was just going to ask council's permission if it's okay, if you want to go ahead and pick your date, or Cheryl puts it down a few dates, and we could all reply back. I'd kind of like to do what we did last year. It was nice to have it here, and it was much more relaxing. If that's good with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So Cheryl, if you will send out a few dates, maybe
Okay.
for
Mm-hmm.
council and staff in December.
Mm-hmm. Yes. For the other one, what day of the week were you thinking?
Savitas is closed on Mondays, but I don't know if they would be willing to rent us out
Yeah.
just based on another
Yeah,
day.
for 30 people, you don't want to have to rent out the entire place.
And they do that, so.
Well, and also now we have meetings every Monday night now.
Not the first one.
So I can try to,
The first one's the mayor chats.
well, I left him a message and he hasn't called me back yet, so I'll try to call him again tomorrow and I can email,
Okay.
send a BCC email.
Okay.
And to the side of conversation there about Mondays, it could be the first Monday of February, because that should avoid the mayor chat and all the other Monday night meetings.
And even after Martin Luther King That's the 16th. So it'd have to be, there are 5 Mondays in January, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
True. Mhm.
So the 30th is potentially an option. So maybe I'll aim for that, potentially January 30th. Because I'd like to get it nailed down so we can tell our volunteers as soon as possible. So I'm just asking council's permission to move forward with that idea. And then at the next budget cycle, we can talk about if we want to go back and do advance and what we want to do for the next budget cycle.
Yeah, so you talking to other trying to figure this out.
So is that good? And
Okay.
then we'll have Cheryl send out a couple dates for the holiday dinner. John has to be there because, and then Brandon will be available to drive me home. If he doesn't.
And we just need to know which direction we're going to go.
Right. That was it. Sorry. All right, so that brings us to the Western Union Municipal Alliance update. They are still, I told them we were not going to pursue ETJ at this time. I have tried to email and get in touch with the guy at Chapel Hill, not successful yet, but it would definitely be in the new year before any of that happened. They are still, I don't know, I think they're going to have to do their ETJ proposal after the new year. It's just time has really gone fast and gotten away.
Are we the only holdout on ETJ?
Uh-huh.
Mineral Springs is,
We weren't the
Oh,
only
they
one.
didn't want to do it?
I don't think so.
Yeah, and Stallings wasn't, right?
He still had to talk to his board. Rick and Stallings had not talked to their boards yet. Rick said he had to talk to his people.
So we're not the lone holdout.
Well, we're the only ones right now that are like confirmed hard stuff.
Really, the only ones doing it is Weddington and Marvin, right?
Well, their situation's a little bit different than ours too.
So we're meeting this week, and then we will not meet in December. They are also all. I did find it interesting that Marvin did get the county to approve a sewer pump station for their new heritage district, which was interesting.
Well, whose cost?
I don't know. But I thought they weren't going to approve any more pump stations, right?
Well, the question always is, does it fall on the developer, does it fall on the town, does it fall on?
It might fall in the town because of their heritage district cross. Jack, I don't know. That's a good question. I can ask.
It always comes down to money.
I can ask who did. Who it was. And then I will definitely ask them about the Parks and Rec contract and insurance. I just do know that in talking with them, and Waxhaw has been coming to a few meetings.
Good.
They're just a completely different beast than we are. We are not anywhere close to Waxhaw or Union Trail or Shaw. So, chat with the mayor update. We did have 25 people, primarily from the Epcot subdivision. There were a few other people from Cuthbertson Road, but that was the majority was Epcot. It was a good discussion, a lot of conversation about raising taxes to pay for things that people want. So it was very interesting.
When they discussed that, did you bring up the fact that we remain revenue neutral while everyone around us, including the county, is raised?
I also tried to explain a little bit about the history of Wesley Chapel, how we incorporated to not become Indian Trail and to not be Waxhaw, and we don't want to be Indian Trail or Waxhaw or Weddington or anybody else. We want to be us. And
The general consensus of everybody there, though, mostly, was that we need to raise taxes in order to get things from that. If we don't have a very high tax rating anyway, and that it wouldn't hurt to consider that and to look into some possibilities of things that the town could do, the village could do, if they raise taxes a little bit. It wouldn't hurt. That's the right. That everybody said, well, it wouldn't hurt us that bad. And I mean, I know that was a small percentage of people, but
My follow-up to that comment would be exactly that. That was a small percentage of people. And before we turn around and raise taxes as politicians for Wesley Chapel residents, I think we need to get a better cross-section of that settlement before we sit down with the budget.
Yeah, there are only 130 houses. And what's interesting is somebody reached out to me after the meeting and was like, I live in the courtyard, and because a lot of people were saying, I only pay $50, I could pay $150 and not even notice it. And this person was like, I would notice it, but don't think everybody in the neighborhood wants their taxes raised. And I think it would be different if I had a group of 30, 40, 50-year-olds versus 60 and 70-year-olds who are retired and might have a little more disposable. I don't know. They seem to have a lot of disposable income versus when I think about my parents on a retired budget, there's not a lot of disposable income. They wouldn't want their taxes raised. So it was just very interesting. I'm hoping that the next few meetings will not be all the same neighborhood over and over again. I think that will get very stale.
Can I ask from peanut gallery? I mean, it's just interesting for that particular neighborhood that there were a lot here. I mean, is there a buzz going around or something that it pulled from that? And I was like, when you said
They're having a few issues with their developer, so that probably
think that's driving it.
and the comforts and road issue. There were people who just live in that neighborhood that came and asked about what we were doing about comforts and road.
That's interesting because I mean, I was shocked when you said 20 people. I thought maybe you could do.
Well, there are a couple committee members who live in that neighborhood who are very unhappy with how we run things. So,
Gotcha.
Okay, there's a lot of this.
The other thing related to that whole idea is, do they think if they pay another $30 in taxes that we will suddenly fix intersections and hire more deputies? And do they think we will then have a deputy on call at 12:30 when they have a suspicious vehicle in their neighborhood? And do they probably don't realize that we don't decree the deputy hours, and that won't produce a deputy when they call. And,
I tried to educate them kindly. I told them that as a town we paid an additional $600,000 to the sheriff's office versus an unincorporated county resident. And when we asked what we got, I said one's own deputy. So if it's going to cost me $600,000 for one's own deputy, why am I going to raise taxes for one of it?
Well, I think one of the things that was brought up about money was, doing a gathering area, like a gazebo, doing things for the village, have that maybe put out on the sunshine list. Here's a list of things that could be done. Would you be interested in any of these? Just getting more of a general consensus, but actually not just say, hey, we're going to raise taxes, but we'd like the village is considering doing this.
We asked that in a comp plan survey.
We did a
Like,
comp
would you
plan
be willing
survey,
to-
and we just did a regular survey.
But specifically, would you be willing to pay more taxes to do such things? Was in that survey, so.
I just thought it was a very interesting, small portion of the population that was talking very loudly.
What were some of the things that they would spend this proposed money on?
About $75,000 to $80,000 to write a comprehensive master plan for the park.
And that wasn't everything.
Because that could be done in-house very cheaply, for free. More parks, more sidewalks, road improvement, something done back here, and I tried to again explain that we can't do anything back here until Aston does their side. So I think people learned a little bit. I also tried to deal with some of the animosity in the room by saying that at the past budget cycle, what council asked for was some grace and patience as we worked through the Dogwood Park dam issue. That was a brand new issue to us. People throwing numbers at us like $1 million, and we were just like, well, let's be patient with us. I said, we are all just normal people, living normal lives, and we just need a little grace and patience as we figure out the dam issue before we, go crazy with other things. Hopefully.
Are these folks participating in the events at the park?
Some of them.
Some.
one.
One. Okay.
Maybe you just had communications committee talking about, and you were talking about posts and stuff. Maybe some education.
Yeah.
You know, like how does a sheriff's deputy work? You know, this is what it costs, but what control do we have? You know, and what does a transportation improvement, and how long does it take? I don't know, just a lot of these things that newcomers wouldn't know.
Maybe you could structure meetings where each month you focus on a different neighborhood.
I thought about that. The next one shows up as the same people again. We might need to move it to another location because it doesn't need to be the same song and dance every time.
But let's say you put something out for, let's say, the Wesley Oak subdivision, or then maybe the Silver Creek subdivision, and the Stonegate subdivision, and then just kind of bring those people in small groups, whoever decides to come. Not to exclude anybody, but I mean, that just means extra headache for you, but that's why you get paid big bucks. I will sit down with a straight face.
I mean, it was interesting. It was it was a nice group. I think there was only one person who was like extremely unhappy with us, but I could have been passing out money and he still would have been unhappy.
But Emily did a great job. She was very forthright and she knew her stuff. And there was a couple of people that was trying to get her kind of back her in a corner and ask her really, financial questions, this, that, and the other. But
well,
she
just
always
remind that our budget
answer.
meetings are open meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one person said, I was the only person at the last budget meeting, and residents want their taxes raised. It's council who doesn't want to raise taxes.
I don't want to debate that right now.
So, it was interesting. Yeah, it was interesting. I think we probably have had more hours than like anybody else has, like Marvin and
Yeah.
so. And I told them, I said, in Wesley Chapel, people really want to be left alone.
Mm-hmm.
We hear from people when they're angry. We know that people are happy with us when there are 50 people signed up for public comment. We know we have done something wrong. So hopefully they're listening on that. So we'll see what the next one's like in January. I'm glad I have a good 6 weeks before that has to happen again. I try to up my meds before that day. But we'll see.
I thought it went really well. Really did.
Thank you. Thank you for being there.
No, you're welcome.
And we'll rotate through so everybody gets to experience the joy
But you have to bring cookies and coffee.
and liquor. So that's enough of that. So council comments. We'll go into those before we go into closed session. Do I have any volunteers to go first?
No, I will, since Cheryl stole my thunder.
What was she doing?
About using the communications committee for education. I think we're going to have more and more questions come about from possibly if the trend continues and we have people that attend these meetings. I think there's going to be more of a need to educate the residents on what we're capable of doing and what we're not capable of doing. The roads, for instance, we can't do anything on that. So, I mean, I know that they're still getting on their feet with finding the volunteers and everything else. But I would like for us to consider using, or maybe not even the communications. I'd like for us to consider a way that we can bring about more education about what our limitations are, what we can do within the council, within the village, through some means, such as the communications committee, possibly.
Yeah, because I get stopped at the grocery store a lot, and people start talking to me about schools, and I said, that's the Board of Education. Talking to me about roads, I said, that's the Department of Transportation. They start talking about security, I said, that's the Sheriff's Department. They said, well, what do you guys do? I thought you were the government. I'm like, we're limited.
Amanda, weren't you working on a sheet that you were talking about doing like the information type sheet?
About comparing us to Waxhaw.
Just the information about the village, what our tax rate is, how many, just sort of, did I misunderstand? Just a sheet for information purposes that would have about the village.
Well, we did that kind of when Amy came along to help her answer the following questions, but we can certainly revisit it.
If you give me questions, I can compile some stuff too.
Don't we have results from the last census?
Oh,
The
yeah.
census that was done a
A
couple
lot
of
of
years
it's
ago.
in, there's a lot of updated stuff in the comp plan that could be used.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, as a writer, I volunteer my time to put together any kind of verbiage you would like to do. Take me 5 minutes to do it, and be happy to do that.
Cheryl and I were working on a document just to compare our population to Waxhaws, to Stallings, to somebody else's, and then what their square land area is, and then our population, and our tax rate, and our total budget. Because I did say out loud, it probably didn't win me a lot of fans, I did say out loud that, in my opinion, Dogwood Park is almost done. Like, if you keep cramming stuff in it, it's going to lose its beauty, it's going to lose its passive park. And I also said that I don't think that we, as a city of 9,000 residents, are obligated to provide parks and recreation opportunities for the entire county, or something every month. If our volunteers are feeling tired and stressed, then maybe we need to pull back on how many events we are doing and do what we do well, but not stress on our volunteers. So, we'll see. But it was interesting. I was glad I did it. I'm glad I have 2 months for it. Yeah. That's my council, I think. I don't think I can.
I just wanted to, again, publicly copy what Brad said, that without John and Wayne stepping up at the last minute to take care of our audio equipment at the Dogwood Park event, the Fall Bash, we would have been without music, without public broadcasting, they just deserve a huge recognition for stepping up at the last minute, throwing together their own personal equipment, and showing up to make the event happen.
Wayne did a great job. He really did.
Wayne is on the Parks and Rec Committee. He's also.
Last name?
What's Wayne's last name? Cheryl?
I can't think of it.
Wayne from Silver.
He's also in John's band. He brought a mixing board and some speakers and hooked everything up and made sure everything was, announcements were done, music was playing. All of that we wouldn't have had because the scheduled DJ got COVID at the very last minute, literally 2 days before. That's it.
Yeah.
There was one man who stepped up, he was a former Marine, and said he would like to give his time and talents to the town in some port. He's looking at possibly the planning board. But remember the Marine, the big guy that said he wanted to step up and give back to the community. So that is a sort of unforeseen advantage of those, is that, we may have gotten ourselves another volunteer just because of what he heard from you as to what we need.
So I would just like to say, in our earlier conversation, that it's getting a lot darker now, and people aren't used to driving in the dark, still rushing everywhere. It's also prime deer season, so just to kind of make everybody aware of it and think about it from a safety perspective, as well as we go into the holidays, with more travel around wherever people may go on the holidays, and just recognizing that, it is kind of rough out there sometimes. A lot of dangerous driving behaviors. You really have to drive for everybody around you. So, just a general safety caution note out there.
I'd like to add, I'm doing my part. The deer are not cooperating.
Did you get one?
What's it means not cooperating?
I've seen them, but I haven't gotten them.
Well, you get the one that comes through my yard and lays palms.
I can't use
Use a bow and arrow.
I can't use it.
Guys, I'm an animal lover, and let's not
Well, I
talk
love
about it.
animals too, but overpopulation is not in the best interest of animal either.
So, all right. So to everybody here, we have to go into closed session. So you won't enjoy this fun part. Neither will we.
That's why I'm on the wall.
Let's call it closed session.
So thank you for coming.
Yes,
And thank you for being willing to serve all three of you. We appreciate it.
Congratulations on being appointed.
Congratulations, and I'm sorry.
That's my line.
Now, what happened, John sent me pictures. John likes to send pictures and text, and of the gate, and it was kind of crummy looking, and so I contacted Public Works, and they said, yeah, they'd give us a new gate, and they did it very quickly. I was amazed. Brand new gate.
It's too big.
What?
It doesn't fit. I mean,
It was free.
it's just too big.
But it was free.
It was free, so I'm not going to say anything, but John just sent this, it must have just happened today.
In what way is it too big?
Well, the opening's this big and the gate's this big.
But it's workable.
It's, well, yeah. If it's-
Perfectly workable.
I can,
You
yeah.
can thread the chain through there like that.
Well,
No,
absolutely.
Maybe the old one was too small.
The gate historically opened in, the way they set this up, the gate can only open out now, which kind of makes it hard. When you pull your car in, you can't open the gate into your car. We may have to,
I'm not pulling my car up. Are you pulling your car up?
absolutely, well, at least all the time. So, we may have to alter the gate.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to, thank you for confirming that it didn't cost us anything.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye, Captain.
Oh, yeah.